want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
3, 2, silent 1 countdown. G'day everyone, DJ Struth mate here. How the bloody hell are yous? I'm live Skyping with my good buddy Joe in the UK. Yay. Joe is in the awesome band Minus Q. How the bloody hell are you, mate?
I'm doing good, thank you, pal. How are you?
Mate, I'm doing very well, very well. It's just after 6 p.m. here on the evening of Saturday. It's your early morning over there. Thank you very much for getting up early and having a chat with me.
Yeah, very welcome. 7 a.m. Saturday morning. Dedication to the cause, man.
Okay, hang on. I'm having problems here. I think this might have to be exclusive. We've never done this before, but I can't hear you through the hoodie. Yep. You know what we're going to do? Just I'll do a bit of superhero thing here. Hang on. We'll just take that off.
Oh, world exclusive.
Yeah, good enough. Ah.
Yeah.
I can hear him. Yeah. That's much better. That's much better. I can hear you, Joe. Okay.
World exclusive.
Right. Well, this is a bit of a variance. We're obviously going to have a catch up with Joe right now. But I put out a little message on Twitter last week, I can't remember what it was. I wanted to do a new metal special, and Joe's a big fan of new metal from back in the day, and he thought he'd get on board, and he suggested a few tracks that I might be able to put on the show, and I thought, you know what, get on board, we'll have a catch-up, we'll play some new metal tracks for the audience, and see if anyone wants to reminisce and go along with us. But mate, you're a big new metal fan. You've got some inspiration from new metal into Minus Cube in some sort of fashion, I'm sure. So, yeah, what's been going on with you for starters? I got to say, mate, what's been happening with you in music?
Well, oh my god, with music stuff, we are working on our third album. That's been for about 2 years, but we've sort of, pushed the pause button on it for a little while. Just, stuff just comes up, life things and whatever, and you can't always just dedicate every bit of free time to it. So that has actually sort of recently restarted though. So I'm sort of quite happy to be working on trying to get this album finished, because it's going to be pretty good, I think. And in the meantime, we've done a couple of little other songs here and there. We did a collaboration song a couple of months ago, which was about it's like 12 minutes long.
That was huge. I got to feature it on the DJ Struth Mate show. I was very happy about that. But it was an epic one, but it was totally worth it, mate. It was like you said, the collaborative effort. This is Roses of Blue on Twitter. Pardon me.
Yeah. It's kind of, I'm just up for being creative and trying to keep. Sometimes when you do the album things and I've got like 10 songs that are sitting there waiting they're all there together, and sometimes it's just nice to totally do something completely different. I'm just up for being creative, whatever form that comes in, and keep my eye in on how to do stuff, because it's really easy to just become really rusty and lose track of what you're doing. So I'm just all for being creative, and the chance to be creative and try something a bit new, a bit different is all good with me. We did that, and which was really good fun, and maybe do a couple more songs together as well going forward. Nice. which should be cool. Other than that, focus will be on doing the album when we get everything finished. Still, Glyn is still working on the drums for a few more songs. And
yes, Glyn. Shout out to Glyn. Sorry.
Yeah. And then I just got to mix it and get it done. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, other than that, just ploughing on, It's all good.
Clowning.
Nothing too
Cool.
exciting, but just, doing my bit.
Oh, you're
how
keeping
about
the creative juices flowing. That's good. So,
yeah?
yeah.
And how are things with you?
Oh,
Enjoying
mate.
the epic summer
like I
of Australian summer
it's
2019?
been pretty damn warm over here, dude. And yeah, I did have a little set of holidays recently, which was kind of cool. I got to lay back and not have to do anything too strenuous. But yeah, I'm back into it now. And like I said, it's not too hot here today. I don't know exactly what the temperature is, but it is much cooler than it has been. And yeah, I'm very thankful. And I'm just going to say a quick cheers to you because
Yeah, you too. Sorry, I'm on water because it's like 7
it's all
a.m.
good. I wish I could say it was Red Bull, but we can't get any mention of that. But yeah, mate, so today we're going to be mucking around with this new metal special.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you suggested a few tracks, and I went to that little list the other day that I shared, and I think some of the bands that maybe didn't really fall into new metal into that personal list, but some maybe swayed into it. But I'm talking like someone put, I think, Slipknot in that list somewhere, and I just thought that's wavering on the
I
new
know
metal
it's a
vibe.
hard one to call in terms of.
Yeah,
I don't really know what the definition of it is. I'm rubbish with definitions of music, like it comes under this term or whatever. But
just 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Hey Siri, can you define new metal? This will be interesting.
Okay, I found this on the web for can you define new metal?
There you go. She always takes you to Wikipedia. Let's see the official term. This will be interesting, actually.
Okay.
It's a subgenre of alternative metal that combines elements of heavy metal music with elements of other music genres such as hip-hop, alternative, rock, funk, industrial, and grunge. New metal bands have drawn elements and influences from a variety of musical genres, including multiple genres of the heavy metal genre. New metal rarely features guitar solos.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
That's not a bad point. Hey,
Yeah.
I sort of think back on that. There's usually breakdowns of something or some sort of audio change dissonance in the track. But yeah, there you go. Also syncopated with bass guitar riffs, and I won't keep going on, but there's usually a lot of 7-string stuff it's saying there as well.
Yeah.
That down-tuned factor. But yeah, okay, the solo factor. Wow, that's got to be a bit crushing for a few traditional guitars.
I remember that was quite the thing at the time. That it wasn't really very trendy or whatever to have any guitar solos. Maybe that's still the case now. I don't really know, to be honest. But I do remember that maybe sort of around 2000 to 2003. There was a whole chunk of music there was a lot of rock music then, which was quite cool. But
For sure.
yeah, none of it had guitar solos in it.
Yeah,
I think
I've got to say, Joe is an amazing guitarist. Everybody, I mean, you put a lot of work into your solos. No, you are, dude. No, don't hold back on this right now. You're a fucking awesome guitarist, and you put work into your solos. You're not one of those people who just lay down something. You actually spend time on this and make sure it sounds, to your ear perfect before you put it out to everybody. And if anyone doesn't believe this, just go listen to a freaking Minus Cube track and You got to put a compilation of the solo compilation video. That's got to come out soon. That'd be cool. Just sway into each one of us. Yeah.
I think
little medley.
A medley, just That's
Gotta love that.
Well, I could do. I think I don't know why that was a thing, and I don't know if it still is a thing. Maybe just people didn't have people thought that other people wouldn't have the patience for it, or it seems like these days everything is much more fast paced and it's got to be like 3 minutes of song, and then by which time you've lost interest. And I don't know if that's something to do with it, or if it was just the way it is or was at the time. But I mean, if it fits the song, or if there's a point to it, then I'm just put in a guitar solo, or put in a whatever tuba solo or something, just anything you want. But it was definitely one of the things. But I like doing them. But then I kind of grew up with a bit more older stuff where they were much more prominent. A lot more blues stuff, and then earlier, I guess 80s and 90s, they were everywhere. So
Yeah,
It all goes
and
around
then
in circles.
every generation with a guitarist, you've got people who are redefining what a guitar solo could and would be. E.g., you're going way back to your Jimi Hendrixes, and you're going forward as Tom Morello. Changing up exactly what can be defined. Is that a guitar solo? Is it not? Is it performance art at the same time? Whether it's on a recording and audio, can that be defined as being that? As long as it's made on a guitar. I mean, does that mean it's a guitar solo? Lots of questions. I'm asking too many.
No, it's true though. Yeah, no, I think that's a good point.
And speaking of one band, sorry, we're going to open up with actually, which is one of your choices. Korn with Blind. We're going right back to '94, dude. Like, I remember when this album came out, I didn't catch on to them on the first wave. I was on the next wave because I think I was coming off punk.
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
The Green Day era sort of thing. So when I heard these guys, yeah, wow, I was pretty impressed. I think it wasn't until Life is Peachy and that I actually really caught on, but then I had to go back and listen to the first album, obviously self-titled. But yeah, they were definitely trying some weird stuff with sounds, and I don't think they had that solo sort of factor that the old school rock bands would have had. So yeah, tell us a bit about your discovery of Korn back in the day.
I first discovered Korn, I think one friend of mine played it right when I was on the bus going to college or school or something. I can't remember. Because at the time, prior to that, I was, I listened to stuff like Van Halen and ZZ Top and Gary Moore blues stuff, and just, it was a little bit more sheltered. But then we didn't have the access to the internet. There was no internet. We didn't have anything that was, you could get all this stuff. So I think my music collection at the time was a little bit more sort of sheltered, but then I started growing into Metallica, and that was about the heaviest thing that I had kind of heard, Yeah. And then this guy came up to me and says, "Oh man, listen to this album by Korn," and maybe Blind was one of them. And I couldn't believe how heavy it was. It was kind of scary, and this, it's got a 7-string guitar. What? How does that even work? Where's the extra string on it? And it was so I was really, it wasn't that I was necessarily a massive fan, but it was, I think all that sort of time is quite you're impressionable. It's quite an impressionable time, and you're growing and learning music and discovering what's out there. So that was like, what? Totally mind blown by how heavy it was. They were kind of scary to me.
Yeah, if I remember, there was a little documentary on one of their CD, DVD releases or something from Korn, but Steve Vai actually came into the studio and had a little muck around and jam with them, and Steve Vai actually mentioned himself that he was listening up to the radio one day, and Blind came on the radio station wherever he was at the time, and as a guitarist, he had to literally pull over on the side of the road and have a listen to this track and go, whoa, there's something. Obviously, it must have been the down tune thing, and Ibanez making those 7-string guitars for him back in the day, but it was definitely a new sound, and it opened up a whole. I mean, you've got up to 20-string guitars now in this day and age.
Those huge
people going
ones,
whether it's novelty factor or whether it actually makes decent sound or not. But, I mean, I think the more practical sense.
I have to jump on it, I think, soon.
Kind of
stand
like hugging a big piece of maple wood.
Tree hugging guitar.
That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah.
Look. So we'll play. What we'll do, we'll play because we're actually recording this right now for Skype. Obviously, for Skype, we're obviously recording this for video, but we're also doing the radio show. But for everyone out there, we obviously won't be playing the video clips in between. We might make a separate playlist for everybody, but we'll be playing the songs for the radio show. And we'll go a little bit back and forth with Joe and myself. And because we're heading all the way back to '94 with this track of yours, I'm going to choose the next one, Chimera, which is the most closest one we've got to our current time period, being 2003 release from what track was it? The Impossibility of Reason, I think, was the album title. I could be wrong there, but the track was Down Again. Do you remember this track at all, mate?
No, I don't.
No?
You're gonna have to.
It's all good. Chimera was a band that was introduced. Yeah, I hadn't heard of them, but they were in the genre and vein of maybe Leading Me On from Seven Dust and who else was around at that time? gosh, Killswitch Engage. Try to drop bands off the top of my head, but there was a documentary that I had of them, so I checked it out, and it was pretty cool, and that's basically what got me onto them. They've got a little bit of feels and interests from maybe Alice in Chains, as if they got progressed and maybe on, or maybe if Soulfly even had a feel where they didn't go so heavy metal, they went more of this new metal direction maybe thing. This is what I'm just sort of saying off the top of my head. People out there can completely,
yeah. I remember the band name, but I for some reason didn't go down that road. But I'll check it out if there's a good kind of combination of influences.
Like I said,
sounds cool.
we've got the earliest track we're choosing for this one, and we've got the latest track from this one. So this will be a good comparison to start off at least. So okay. Thank you to everyone who's tuning in. Thank you to Joe for checking in with DJ Struth, mate, as we do this new metal special across the 90s, 2000s spectrum.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely rock, buddy. So, we'll be back in a moment, Struthlings. We've got Korn with Blind coming up right now. We've got Chimera with Down Again. Alrighty, we'll be back in a second. Yo, rock. Alrighty, we're back. Oh my gosh, we just had Chimera with Down Again. You hadn't heard the track before, Joe. I think you were pretty impressed, actually.
Yeah, damn good. I'm gonna have to listen to some more of their songs now because like I say, I don't know why I sort of missed them, but I'd heard of them, but I hadn't really bought any of their albums. So I like it. Very good
stuff. Good. And of course, opening up the new metal special with Joe and Struthy, of course. One of the ultimate new metal bands, of course, Blind by Korn with a backwards R. Gosh, how many people got that tattoo back in the day? That was a thing back in the 90s. Getting the Korn tattoo.
Yeah, Korn tattoo.
Or Soulfly. Soulfly got a lot like tattoo artists hired for their gigs. So people waiting in line to get into the gig. Little quick, you'd be right. Get into the gig. You might get $10 off your ticket. You know, there's so many things out there to try and trick people with punters and everything in there. But metal. So I think like we said, Korn Blind '94 was probably my earliest introduction to it. Maybe '96 was when I fully embraced it, and then. I don't think we haven't got any Linkin Park on the list, but Linkin Park would definitely fall into the new metal phase thing that was probably produced after a lot of real bands came out, because of course a manufactured type deal. Your thoughts on new metal leading into this sort of year? Have you had any influences at all sparking up for that, or do you reckon it's just like something people sweep under the rug these days?
I don't know. I think that. It's one of those. I think it's one of those things that came along at time, like that set of years that it was a bit more, because it's actually quite a wide-ranging area of music. You had bands that had very different styles that sort of seemed to fit within it. I think like you just think about like rap and metal pushed together, which was quite a big thing at the time. But then also there are other styles that I think probably fit into that. And then probably, if there are bands today that take from that era of maybe that sort of 5 or 6 years where there was all these bands coming out, then maybe that, it may influence what comes out now or what comes out today. But I think that the way my brain works anyway is that it's just like a big funnel, you take in a whole load of stuff that's around, and then what comes through the small end is your style or the bits that your brain likes the most. So there's loads from that period of time that it might work better in your head. You might enjoy it more than others. Like some may enjoy the rap side of it a bit more, and then there was the other side that was like more Deftones and Perfect Circle if they could be classed as, they're not really new metal, but they were, I think, around the time when that was all going on.
Yeah.
That sort of did it for me, you know. But that whole period of time, I was on just musical discovery of buying CDs and seeing what was out there, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It was a good time for rock music, actually. And also, I think we had, you know, MTV2, I used to sit and watch around midnight. They would have alternative shows where they would play really good music videos back then. And
they used to push the metal clips to later in the evenings here in Australia for a while. They obviously did it around the world for years.
I don't know why.
That sucks.
It's quite a big, you know, genre of music, really. But for some reason, it didn't fit in with whatever else they had on there. But it wasn't
some
just
of those
rock.
homemade. Maybe there's some of those homemade videos, you know, walking through the graveyard, you know, with really, you know, gothic music playing, that sort of stuff. Maybe put a few of those videos off. But I know what you mean.
There was some good stuff, but I mean, not all rock as well. There was some electronic stuff, and you know, Nine Inch Nails and Aphex Twin, things like that were just like, all right, it's some crazy. But like some of the videos were really high production, you know, real big efforts. I don't know that that's necessarily such a thing these days, but maybe it is. But it was. But you did have to wait until about 11 or 12 at night to start discovering stuff. You know,
it's hard as a young one. You know, if you're growing up, you got to get to bed early for school and stuff the next day and crap. You know, there might be we had a thing in Australia with a program called Rage, and they might have a guest host, or not might. They did, and they still do to this day, I'm pretty sure. They have a guest host programmer who would come on and play all the video clips of one of their favourite artists. And, you know, we had people like Max Cavalera from Soulfly, and, you know, you would set your VCR, you know, that night before and make sure you recorded him because, geez, I discovered, what was the name of that band now? They were the Ruster-infused metal. Bad Brains? Do you remember Bad Brains?
No.
At all? No? Oh, it's another band. We're not playing them on the new metal front, but that's one band I'll have to get you to have a look at on the side because, oh my God, just nice metal, nice groove, and they were a good bunch of guys. And
From
Max
Australia?
Cavalera, of course. No, if they were from America or from either Jamaica or America, from what I'm guessing, because of their, but yeah, they just sort of blew my mind that someone like Max Cavalera, who's such heavy music and world music and everything, he got me onto them. So, you know, helped me branch out my musical horizons. So, speaking of musical horizons, we're doing the new metal show. We've got a couple more tracks coming up right now. We've got one from one of my favourite artists of all time, still kicking around today. We've got Seven Dust. Wow, they've been through a lot in the day.
Yeah, still going.
I watched a little mini clip of them doing an interview just recently, and they were out of debt for about $1 million there from a bad record deal for a little while there.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
They're back on top of it now, but I was sort of like, I hadn't heard from them for a little stint, and I was like, where are they? What's happened to Seven Dust? Yeah, they were trying to make some money, but they're back at it. And the track you've chosen today is Black, and that's off their first self-titled album. I didn't get introduced to them until Home, and they did that track that it was a singer of Skunk Anansie. She did the vocals, did a duo with him on that album Home. I can't remember the track off the top of my head, but yeah, you remember Skunk Anansie?
I do, I do.
Maybe sort of in that. Yeah, sort of in the same vein as new metal sort of thing, I suppose. I could. Yeah, this is swaying a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, they had quite a lot of varied styles, I guess. But I mean, her voice is amazing, and that guy from Seven Dust's voice is amazing as well. So I didn't know that song, so I have to have a listen, try and find that one.
We will. We'll have to have a second new metal. Well, no, it doesn't have to be a new metal. We'll have a selection of tracks from Joe and Struthy in the future, but right now, like I said, Black, great song. When I got the first album, it was definitely remixed a little bit, you know, not as full on as I expected, because that's what comes from that first album sort of deal. But the tracks definitely come through, and they're still prominent to this day. They even said that when they released the album, the managers and the producers all said, "No, you've got to go with Black. Black's got to be the first single." And they were like, "No, we've got other better songs than that." But you know what? It's held up to this day, and we're playing it right now because it's a prominent track. And also, we lost our good mate Wayne Static back in 2014, the front man from Static X. I had to put this in because my first introduction to Static X was the track Push It. I'm not too sure too many people are huge fans of Static X in this day and age, but I mean, when his passing came around, there was a lot of talk in the metal community and everything, and everyone brought him up and mentioned all this stuff about him. If people don't remember him, he had the fucking huge hair. Him all of Good Time Before every show that he would have put on. He had the massive beard, and he had a lot of problems outside of Static X, and I think he started to rebrand it, and then the bass player, previous bass player from Static X, did some money dealings and stopped him from being able to take it on. But anyway, he got to play on some Ozfests and stuff. But I'm not sure. Were you a Static X fan yourself, there, Joe?
Again, I didn't have any of the albums I know of them. I remember watching the videos. There was just that period of time where there was music videos of all over the place, and I mean, it was quite distinctive sound. I think a little bit different to what other people were doing, which is no bad thing. And the hair. I definitely remember the hair as a very prominent feature.
Slight adding of synth was, slowly growing on these sorts of metal tracks as well. Like, putting that extra layer on the recording to really blow out the, wow factor of the tracks. But I've got to give you a bit of forgiveness too, because I mean, all these artists are pretty much from America here too. You're in the UK, so this would have had to funnel, like you were talking about the funnel before. It's got to get to you as well. So some of the more obscure ones might not even, Anyway, it's all good.
There's probably a whole load that I didn't even, even hit the radar. But I tried. I mean, I tried to.
UK had you had your Lost Prophets. You had Skindred were from the UK as well, I believe. And
Skindred, actually, I do. Hacktivist for another. I'm almost I've got my friend over here telling me all these UK bands. I'm just joking. Hacktivist. I remember I was just sort of trying to reminisce there, and then I remember I had headphones on. Yeah, Hacktivist played at a big day out over here in Australia, and I didn't get to see them because I didn't get in early enough in the line. But they were definitely from the UK, and I had to listen to them this afternoon, and I was like, okay, they were definitely on the genre of nu metal, but they haven't released anything for like 4 or 5 years, so I'm not sure if they're still on the scene. So I remember the name, but again, couldn't tell you the songs. But I went to a big day out once in Australia.
Awesome.
2004 it was in Brisbane. Yeah, nice. Brisbane. I saw Metallica headline there, and Muse as well. I remember seeing Muse.
Sweet. And
the Darkness, yeah. They just awesome, released their first album. They were quite a big thing in this country around 2003 time. Very amusing, but not the same genre of music as what we're doing today.
That's still cool. It's all good. Everyone. Joe's been to Australia. Got to experience some awesome bands live in Australia as well, which would have made it extra special. Wow. I remember doing Rockstar with The Darkness. That's such a hard song to achieve, but anyway. Okay. So we'll be playing right now. We've got Seven Dust with Black coming up right now, and then we'll follow it up with Static X with Push It. Thank you very much once again, Joe, for joining me for this new metal special with Joe and Struthy. So we'll be back in a moment, everyone. Bye. we're back. Sorry, we've had a fly in the studio. Pardon me, over here on my end. We're just fucking around. We just heard Static X with Push It, and we also had Seven Dusk with Black there. Awesome tracks for the new metal special.
He just wants to get in on the music, I think. Maybe he's just,
Yeah. I have my extendable fly swat, so whatever distance he ends up coming in at. But yeah, anyway, back to the show. I've got to say, Static X, very, very pumpy, fast, paced music, and Seven Dust very obviously bringing the chunk factor back to, I don't know, it really does hit you in the heart when you hear that music sort of thing. That's a feeling that I get, you really get into their forced grooves that they create. I don't know, what's the term there with that sort of riffage, mate? I mean, it's not normal riffage.
I think, something like that song, the verse is very rhythmical, and then that's, I think, a style that they have kept throughout, because they have these really huge choruses, which are very much more melodic and mostly, and there's quite a contrast to the verses and the other parts of the song, and that's been
huge light and shade.
It's
huge.
part of their style, and but I mean, they're great musicians, and their guy's voice is brilliant. But they also released an acoustic album. It was a live show, but it was all acoustic. But they had the full-on drum kit in there as well, so there was quite a lot of power behind it. It wasn't the whole bongos and violins. It was like they were playing the whole thing, but just with acoustic guitars, but full-on drum kit, and that was a really good CD, a good album as well. They hold up really well acoustic, their songs, which is always a good sign.
I think that with the process that they spend in writing their songs, they're not rushing them out there. They're making sure that they like you said, I mean, Lejean's got the lead singer's got the or like choir background and gospel sort of feel, so I can definitely I definitely empathise you there with it when you hear his vocals come through. They're just huge. And whether they are doing that rat-a-tat-tat, staccato sort of moments with these vocals and straight into the complete open air lungs, just launching it out there just to make sure every note gets hit. So huge. Static X, maybe Wayne Static a little bit more on the opposite at lengths. I think he's more so just trying to get that growl out there and make everyone happy. So to each their own. I mean, I'm sure Static X would have evolved into something else, maybe even different. And Wayne Static had his own album or his own project, Pig Trotter or something, or I don't know. I've never heard it in the end. But it didn't get much notoriety. So it's all good. It's all good. We're going to be listening to another choice of yours right now, which is one of my absolute freaking favourite tracks from one of my favourite albums from one of my favourite artists, Deftones. Change in the House of Flies off White Pony. Came out in 2000. I was definitely a huge fan of Around the Fur. And what was that? Was the first one self-titled, Deftones? Pardon me. I can't remember now. Oh, crap.
I don't know that it was. I think they did have an album called Deftones, but I thought it came out later. Might be wrong.
There was the White album, which always confused me because I thought they had a White album, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or was it just White Pony?
No,
I can't remember
Pony,
now.
But there was an album that was just white as well.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Anyway,
I've done my research here.
All the Deftones fans are going to be spewing right now, but anyway,
I'm sorry.
This track right now, we'll come up in a moment. Deftones, it definitely changed their output and reach with a few of their tracks, because I think everyone just sort of put them into that really heavy sort of genre and maybe didn't listen to the whole album of Around the Fur before White Pony came out. But this song came about from them just jamming, obviously, which most tracks do, but that was a jam where I think the guitarist and Chino, the singer, was just doing their thing, and then the bass player walked in and just sort of hopped on his bass and started doing something, and then the drummer walked in out of the toilet probably, or having a feed, and he just hopped on the drums, and someone must have hit record at some point, and that grew into this track now. So pretty damn awesome. The film clip was pretty cool. I was always a big fan of Deftones. pretty rocking. What was it? Did you used to jam on their songs? You used to love playing fucking Shove It?
Yeah, I
mean,
think
big
they
riff.
were like one of the bands for me that was just like really heavy. I sort of categorized them in my head of bands that to me seemed really heavy. But then when you delve into some of their stuff, and definitely what they've done since then as well, there's the ambient side of them, which is also really intriguing to me because they managed to, and his voice when he's not really screaming and shouting, his voice is really atmospheric, and it works really nicely. And I think they do blend those two styles in some of their songs really well. But White Pony, actually that song this song was one of the ones which I discovered at midnight watching MTV2, I think, when the video came out. And it was, oh man, what's this? It's really good. And so I think, I just got into them, and I've been quite a fan of their music ever since, really. But certainly some of the other songs that they've done in more recent times, very huge songs and huge sounding as well. But White Pony was that album. There was a time when I just never stopped playing it, and there's some really heavy songs on there. And then there's one with Maynard from Tool on there as well, which is a really, really cool combination because their voices are they work quite well together. But yeah, that one's just stood out as it's good.
Top tier in your level of albums, especially albums you can listen all the way through, like not just the one or two fave tracks, like as a nice ambient level of listening to music. You can cruise to that whole album. Maybe not so much with the other artists I'm going to feature as one of my favorite new metal artists, if we can classify that, but Mudvayne. I was introduced to them back in early 2000s on the wave of the Slipknot mask face paint genre, like really people going back to Kiss days to try and get attention. But these guys held chops because they're actually good musicians as well. I think they had some high end level Hollywood people doing video clips for them and stuff, which helped them stand out a little bit more. But I was pretty impressed. These guys sort of came out and they had the novelty factor. But this track that we're going to play now wasn't my first track that I heard of theirs. The first track was Dig, but I've heard it so many times I thought I'd do Death Blooms, which is it's got some meaning behind and everything. I didn't want to go into too much detail, but we were talking about how I discovered songfacts.com, so I'll be going behind like a little bit of information behind these tracks today. But some of them just don't need. It's a good song. It's an awesome song. But you like a bit of Mudvayne yourself? I think you were saying that Glyn was a bit more of a fan of the old Mudvayne than yourself, possibly, or he helped you discover Mudvayne.
It was one of those things that I didn't. It's not that I disliked it. It's just that I didn't really know they were around. And then
hadn't been exposed.
That sounds terrible, doesn't it? But you sort of there was a lot of music going on then, but also at that time, he actually introduced me to their music. Glyn is probably has the biggest collection for a variety of music that I know in the whole universe. Absolutely everything will buy and listen to. And because of the time signatures, that interesting time signatures I think featured in their songs, maybe especially in the earlier ones. I'm not totally 100% sure, but he being a drummer as well, very interested in that sort of thing. And I think when we were doing music back then, which was a previous band, but we were really interested in trying to learn and do things with a bit more interesting time signatures, trying to be all clever and push your boundaries a little bit. And yeah, he was like, oh, I listen to this song, and listen to this whole band, and we would sit and listen to Mudvayne albums whilst trying to learn at the same time. So yeah,
that would have been fun.
Yeah. He's he's the reason I know of them, but I didn't really sort of delve into many of their albums.
Yeah, I suppose that time signature stuff and everything, it all stems from jazz, obviously. Where, gosh, if you look at some of the Mudvayne songs, you go into something that's almost 100% more difficult to play in the jazz world because God knows what's going on out there in this day and age. You got instrumental jazz. If you were to sit down and listen to some of that, in a live club in an atmosphere with some people who are really talented at making stuff up on the spot, you don't know what the time signatures are. You never will, and it will be just a one-off
freeform
experience.
Freeform jazz style. Actually, I think Gwyn actually learned with either a jazz teacher or he learned I don't know, elements of that like back in the day as well. But there's jazz and there's jazz. Some of it's kind of quite out there, and then there's some of the really old crackly stuff that I really love. All that it's has a really interesting vibe to it. Really old stuff, but some of it's kind of frantic and interesting.
It does. And okay, we'll get into these tracks. Speaking of frantic, we do have Mudvayne coming up in a moment. But first up, we've got Deftones, Change in the House of Flies, and Death Blooms by Mudvayne. So we'll be back in a moment, Streetlings. You guys rock. You rock, Glenn, of course. You know that. I hope you don't mind, Joe. I felt a little naked.
Sorry.
Is that better? I mean, I've got the whole image to uphold here, and this is like having a nip out on Instagram right now, dude. Like, I'm very exposed. Sorry.
It's fine.
I can't
whatever
works.
Whatever you need to do is good with me. If the hat needs to come back, then
we'll bring it in.
I've
got the spare. I've got the spare up on the on the bust in the back, so it's all good. Pardon me, everyone. Yes, we just had pardon me. Was it Death Blooms? Where are we up to? My gosh, Death Blooms by Mudvayne before, and we had Deftones, Change in the House of Flies. Yes, if you're joining the radio show, very thankful for joining in. DJ Struthy Show on Mixcloud and SoundCloud. And if you're joining in with the video, how you going, everyone? DJ Struthy here with Joe from Minus Cube with a new metal special and semi-new metal special, whatever we're wavering on, whatever we're happy with to classify as what we want to listen to right now. Copyright down the bottom. There you go. Mate. Some more stuff about Minus Cube. We've got to make sure we talk about you and your band too. I mean, you've obviously got the plans coming up for the third album coming out and everything. We haven't spoken much about Mike at the moment. You've been contacting Mike of late? What's he been up to? He has some solo stuff as well too, doesn't he?
Well, with Mike, we did in April or May last year. How is it already almost a year since that? I think in May. I don't know. The time is just going so fast. With regards to the album, Mike he recorded his parts ages ago, and I've obviously we're in contact when we do some new music and things like that. He's always generally really up for recording stuff and writing lyrics. He's very sort of prolific when it comes to writing lyrics and recording, and he kind of wastes no time. It's really, really awesome. But in May last year, now 2018, we released he released a solo acoustic album. These are songs I played and produced it. I played the guitar and produced the album, which is something that I have not really had any much experience in doing acoustic recording too much. But the songs were all written were all his songs. You know, he'd written them all, and he, you know, asked me at the time, "Oh, how about if we record some of my songs?" I was like, "Yeah, how do you want to do it? Do you want to like send me the guitar tracks and send me the vocals, and I'll just put it together here, or what?" And he said, "No, well, if you want to play the guitar then on them, then feel free," kind of thing. And
sweet.
He kind of, some of them were like almost, he sent me about, I don't know, 10 or 12 songs. Some of them were like more, not demo, but they were shorter form songs. You know, they were quite short. And some of them were like, man, this doesn't need anything doing to it. This is, you know, but he kind of gave me sort of free rein to rearrange and put parts in that weren't in his original recordings. And what I loved about the songs he sent me were that they were not like, he would pick up the guitar, tune it to whatever the E string was on at that point, and then play and sing to it. So I was thinking, wow, this is because it was, you know, somewhere between either E and E flat or somewhere else, you know.
Yeah.
So I tuned my guitar to how his original ones were. So they're kind of all in interesting places of tuning.
They're all individual.
They're very
one-offs.
It's cool because I was very aware of not wanting to. You know, if he was happy for me to make changes to the songs, that was cool. But I didn't want to, you know, go over the top. I still wanted to kind of honor the song as it was, you know. So I would come up with a couple of ideas and send them back, and, you know, what do you think? Is this okay? And it's like, yeah, this is fine. You know, go for it. And so I kind of arranged some of them a little bit differently, or add a little guitar solo, or just other bits of instrumentation here and there. But yeah, essentially all the songs he had written at some period of time beforehand, and it was like, dude, we've got enough good stuff for a whole album here, you know. Why don't we just do that? So
slap it all together.
If you want to check those out, it's Michael Martin on Bandcamp. The album is on Bandcamp and YouTube as well. Michael Martin.
Cool. We'll provide the link for everybody. Make sure we do that. Yes.
The album is called Endless, and has got a little boat on the front cover, just to help define it, because there's quite a few Michael Martin artist names. Right. But we're doing good. I think going forwards, we were talking about doing some slightly more bluesy stuff as well. Whether that's, you know, once I get this album finished, or whatever, we'll do maybe a few more blues covers or blues original type song in our own way, but try and incorporate some of that element into what we do as well. So yeah, it's all good. Sorry, I rambled on for ages there, but
you're all right. I'm just waiting for a little bit of slide from Joe. I'm more than happy to hear a little bit of blues from you.
Yeah.
So I'm work into it. So
I can do. Yeah, I can arrange that.
Sweet, awesome. We won't hold you up to it, but yeah, if we hear a bit of twanging on your end, we'll make sure that everyone hears it.
Here now, if that comes out, it's because of you.
Nice. I'm happy to be an influencer of that type. Not any other type. I'm happy to be that sort of little minor sort of muse moment sort of thing, if I can help out. But yeah, I'll definitely, mate, because I've heard, like I mentioned before, I think you're a pretty damn good guitarist myself, and I think a lot of other people do. And yeah, I could just hear that sort of, you know, me just hearing you just say, you know, Minus Q might incorporate a little bit of blues. You know, you just say it off the cusp like that, but now I'm like, what's he got planning? You know, so right now we have coming up an artist who I hadn't had too much knowledge of. One you suggested. We have Cheval. I'm definitely pronouncing the title of the band correctly there.
I think
Chevelle?
Chevelle, I think, yeah.
Chevelle, okay.
Yeah. I think it's
we got
named
the track.
after the American car.
Okay, cool. So Chevelle with Closure, and then I'm going to have the track coming out from Papa Roach, Last Resort, which is like ultimate new metal for a lot of people, but probably not one of my favourite tracks, but I think I had to feature it in there. But yes, please tell me about Chevelle, mate. When did you discover them? Because, I need to know about them.
I think I discovered them quite late in our period of time, maybe around 2005. I think they'd been going before that, though. But yeah, I heard them in America on the radio, because they actually don't play rock on the radio in this country, really. Not on terrestrial radio, mainstream stuff. Only if you go searching for it. But that was before there was too many digital stations, though, or anything like that. Yeah, and I thought the song sounded really interesting, and it kind of reminded me of Tool a little bit in a strange way, but a slightly more commercial way than Tool sound. And yeah, it was just one of those things that sort of stuck with me. And then I think, again, we probably played their music and sort of got influenced by them for playing our stuff to some extent. But just really good. They got a lot of good music. I think that they haven't really sort of strayed from their style too much over the years that they've been doing it. You listen to it and you know it's them. Although they have got a few acoustic songs and things like that. But fundamentally, I think their music has remained pretty constant throughout their career.
Okay.
Yeah, really good riffs, really kind of heavy, but always really well produced as well. I'm just looking off to the side here. They've been around since '95. So yeah, okay, that's a pretty long stint. That's pretty good going. Yeah, it's still going now. So
formed originally in Illinois in America. They're pretty much that's their hometown, obviously. So yeah, like I said, I hadn't heard of them before, but if they got some sort of Tool influence, I'm more than happy to have a listen. If you
just a little bit, to some extent, his voice maybe sounded familiar.
Spice.
Yeah, not all the songs, but some of them. I think this one, Closure, I think had a bit of to me anyway. When I first heard it, I thought this sounds a little bit similar.
Yeah,
something
that's
like
cool.
That. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's cool. We're going straight over to Papa Roach with the Last Resort, which got a lot of popularity, as we were talking about in the little quick break there. Is probably got much more recognition than it probably deserved at the time, but mate, it got them spread out, and I think a lot of people still listen to that song, and because it had the factor with the suicide thing and everything, I think a lot of people, like a lot of the young emo sort of generation of the new metal crowd, swarmed around that song, used it as a positive up vibe. And I think even the lead singer, Jacoby Shaddix, had like a breakdown at some point, and he had to use his own song to help him get back up on his feet at some points.
Oh, really?
So yeah, like him and his wife broke up and all that sort of stuff. Like minor details. Like I said, this is not Struth knowing every single factor of every single artist. I was on Songfacts. For a good 2.5 hour stint this morning, and God, I went down a rabbit hole. There's a huge rabbit hole, people. I'll supply the link for songfacts.com so you can enjoy that. But wow. But okay. So pardon me. Chevelle with Closure coming up, and Papa Roach with Last Resort on the DJ Struth Mate show with special guest Joe from Minus Cube. You absolute bloody legend.
It's great to be here, man. This is good fun.
Good to hear, bro. I'm glad because it's a nice natural chat and I'm backing around. Yeah. Let's get on with it. Okay, we just heard Papa Roach. Did we only start recording? Maybe not. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We just heard Papa Roach with Last Resort, and we just heard before that Chevelle with Closure. Okay, yep, I'm a fan of Chevelle now, dude. You've swung me over.
Well,
didn't take too long.
You won't be disappointed.
Awesome selection. Yeah, I hope everyone's enjoyed the selection of tracks we've featured today. If there's any other new metal tracks that we should be hearing of or want to suggest for something maybe for the future, make sure you let us know. It's as easy as letting Joe or myself know. Send us a message. Say
we can do a follow-up.
Yeah, we'll do a follow-up on some of the tracks that we we didn't get to feature for this show, but I mean, we've got 7 apiece basically at the moment, and we thought that was substantial enough for our little introduction. But I mean, I started off just with the 90s. We would have really had a huge cutoff level if we didn't let it just sway over into the 2000s, as you mentioned to me on Twitter.
It's hard to. Yeah, it was a hard thing because I kind of associate some of that stuff with 2000 and beyond a little bit, but then like I said, I mean, it was going on beforehand as well, but I probably didn't really start listening to too much. I was very closed in what I listened to for a few years in the 90s before, but I didn't really start expanding until a bit later on, so but there's loads of good stuff out there.
I mean, everyone's obviously gets influenced in their early years from parents, guardians, whatever they're listening to, that sort of stuff. But when you get into your own sort of thing, you might go along with the crowd maybe for a little stint when you're youth, but then when you just start discovering stuff that like really hits your ear, and I suppose it might be that epiphany moment that you might have a really good friend of yours and you say, can you listen to this new track, and they listen to something from a band that you've just discovered and they go, oh, that's shit, and you just go, you have this crushing moment, like, what are you on about, you psychological, like, what, this is the most amazing music ever, and your opinion might change on that in a few years, but right then, right now, you are passionate, you are feeling it, you are just, this music is going to change the next generation. This is like Beatles sort of. This is the Excalibur right here. Yeah, and it's like some pop song that was just made like in 3 hours that you made of. I don't know. I'm just on a tangent, but
it's true. Yeah, I think it's so true. I mean, I think like you say, growing up for me, it was you sort of listen to what your parents listen to, I think, just by default when you're sat in the back of the car or whatever driving around.
For sure.
I mean, I had blues stuff. My dad plays guitar, so it was Clapton and Hendrix and a lot of blues stuff, but then also Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. But then those guys, you don't know it as a kid, but they're still, they live on forever, and they influence people and will influence people, I think, for forever. And then they influence these bands that we're listening to now, some of them, and in some way, so it all kind of progresses on, but
so who's like a nowadays guitarist right now who you think would possibly be like another influencer for the next generation, who'd be on their sort of level, like your Jimi Hendrixes and your Claptons? Is there someone that you think of right now? Maybe not, doesn't have to be in the virtuoso range of guitarists, but do you know someone off the top of your head? Like, I'm just trying to think right now. I mean, we've definitely got some old schools like your Joe Satriani's, your Steve Vai's, but like who's someone who's going to like propel the next generation into guitardom?
There's a British guitarist. He is a virtuoso though, called Guthrie Govan, which you may or may not have. His videos are all over YouTube, but he played also with Stephen Wilson, who is like a progressive rock artist from the UK as well, and he is the most ridiculously talented guitar player, but incredibly versatile, but also with total feeling as well. It's not just a technical procession of look what I can do. It's all to serve the music, which is he's just a brilliant musician, brilliant guitar player. I'm not. It was mind blowing. But then I think there are other blues guitarists out there like Eric Gales. I don't know if he's from the US. Really good, but the interesting thing about him, if I get it right, is that I think he's right-handed, but he plays a guitar that is left-handed and upside down, because I think his brother or something is left-handed, and that was the only guitar that there was. So he learnt the guitar upside down, and now plays that way. Plays the guitar that way, which is quite unique. But he's really good though, man, there probably are a whole load of others that I know in my head that I can't put right now.
No, that's cool.
Have you discovered
we'll mention those too.
Have you discovered any yourself that?
No, not really. No one off the top charts, but I mean, obviously with the influx of music I have over here, I'm listening to awesome guitarists, but I don't think anyone who's. I'm definitely hearing inspirations from earlier rock. I've been listening to a lot of stoner rock of late. And I think it's that real fuzzy, distorted, old school guitar sound that I think my ears get drawn back to. Like, I think we were talking about, Seven Dust's earlier album Black not being as recorded as good as Home and stuff like that. Yeah. But even the recording style has that feel, and like I'm not going to lie, I've been adding a lot of vinyl sounds, just that scratch sounds to a lot of tracks I've been listening to of late, even if they are relatively new tracks, because I don't know whether it's psychological, but it's making me just have that hark back to what I feel is something more of a recording that's not so over-processed. Maybe that's just my little, and maybe because I've been listening to so much music, but yeah, I can definitely hear, in the stoner rock sort of aspect, I'm definitely hearing your influences from back in the day, like Hendrix sort of, maybe not sort of the style of the guitaring, maybe the sounds and what they were able to achieve. Yeah, the production value, definitely. So definitely. Wow. I
think it's true. I think also there's been times when I've been really stuck for inspiration, and and then I've always found it going back in time to let's listen to Zeppelin albums, and they sound good. I mean, obviously that the production is of its time, although they've been remastered and remixed about 1,000 times since they first came out. But I mean, they seem to me anyway in a similar way. They're kind of that endlessly inspirational sound, and the songwriting, and it was original and kind of very honest at the time, which is
it's a nice musical time stamp that you can obviously thank God that we've got the ability to record music that we can go back to, and you can listen to it, feel for it, and then if you come to this day and age, obviously you can either go that route of overproducing and trying to make it sound like there's literally someone in your room coming through your speakers, or you can hark back to that and try and recreate that sound. These guys were in a basement recording this with little microphones up next to speakers, and the drummer was too loud, they had to put him down the bottom of the stairs. So all these factors, it's huge. So all right, we'll get into some more new metal right now. Sorry, we've got Incubus coming up right now as a choice from you. Awesome track from the Make Yourself album, Privilege. It was the title track. It was the opening. It was the opening track. It was number one, so that introduced everyone to the new sounds of Incubus after Science came out, which was the first album I got introduced to them by. Wow, Science blew my mind, and when Make Yourself came out, I was probably that extra level impressed even more, because they really blew it out there. Obviously a big fan of Incubus yourself, yeah?
They were sort of part of a chunk of bands that were, when I was on my musical discovery of around that time, finding bands and I think they're very versatile musicians, and it's not all, I think earlier on was that much more fast-paced sort of, the vocals were very, very fast, and the music was very upbeat and then I think as time's gone on, some of it sort of gradually chilled out a little bit in pace of stuff, but they're just great mixture of stuff, great riffs. That Brandon Boyd was a really good singer, and had the voice his voice just fits their music really well. And then they have the whole they have that DJ as well playing and adding that element to it, which is great. And then again, also like with the acoustic, when they play their songs acoustically, and they hold up and they sound so good still, and it's completely different. I've heard a few acoustic versions of some of their songs, some of the really fast songs that are slowed down, and you know that song Certain Shade of Green that they play like really fast. And there's an acoustic version I heard of that's like a jazz, almost like a kind of jazzy thing, really slow, but it was great. And awesome musicians. I do. I haven't heard much of their more recent stuff though. To be honest with you, haven't.
The last album I heard of theirs was The Crow Left of the Murder. I have to say, I think that was the last one. But I've got the DVD of the morning sessions, and that's an awesome doco behind the scenes of the process of them, coming together in a really nice space and getting that, like you were saying, getting that creative space and vibe and sort of thing. But the change up into even softer stuff into morning view sessions. Like you said, Science was very sporadic. Even their first EP, all over the place, like Primus sort of bungle stuff. But I can definitely understand it. Even with this track Privilege, starts off with a pretty damn chunky riff, and you're thinking, oh, we're in for another ride of the Incubus album. Okay, we're going to get some fucking heavy stuff here. And they change it up, Drives on that album as well, and that was one of the huge singles for them. That, gosh, how many places did you hear that track? But
I know,
I'm glad you chose Privilege, because it's got one of my favourite little licks in the track where it's got that little bass part and the guitar response part. You know the part I'm talking about. That blew my mind as a musician growing up too. I was sort of like, wow, the guitar and the bass doesn't have to play at the same time. Just you can complement, and you can do that echo, pull out and stuff. So we'll follow that up with what do we got coming up after that? We'll have we're going back as well. 97 with a little outfit called Coal Chamber, which had a little resurgence a few years ago. I'm pretty sure they've disbanded now, but we've got the track Loco, which was their first single. They were very much like I don't know, at first sight, maybe a kid-friendly emo version of some sort of metal band that you might thought, what's going on here? But they definitely worked on the image as well as the music at the same time, I think. Well, that's the feeling I get. So...
I think my introduction to Coal Chamber was on a... we get like weekly rock magazines with the free CD on the front. They don't do that anymore because CDs don't exist, unfortunately. But and that was cool. That was a really good way of back in the day getting introduced to a whole random bunch of bands, because they would have like 12, 15 songs of.
I think you might be right that I was the same over here. There wasn't an album called Sweating Bullets, was it? The mixtape was called.
Oh, right.
No? Yeah, sorry, not the magazine, not the artist or anything, but I think the compilation album that I first heard them on was called Sweating Bullets. I've got to ask one of my mates one of that, because I remember I think he handed me the CD with that track on it. It had them, it had, gosh, who else did it have on it? It was a big introduction of new music to me, so that's why it sort of made me go, okay, maybe it was the same one. And you're right. It's a dinosaur of an idea putting a CD on the front of a music magazine these days, isn't it?
Pretty much. It happens rarely, I think, now. But that was definitely one of the ways of kind of introducing to new bands and new music that I used to subscribe to, because it was about £1.50 to get a weekly magazine with a free CD on the front, and it was cool. So I think that was probably where I first heard of Coal Chamber, or that song I seem to recall was on it.
Me Loco.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll hear this track now. Yes, Privilege by Incubus and Loco by Coal Chamber right now. Let's get into it. A little bit of more serious music rather than something a little bit more comical, but it's all good. Let's get into it. Alrighty. So, we just heard Coal Chamber, Loco, and before that we had Privilege by Incubus. Loco wasn't too much of a huge track on my end. I mean, they had a lot of swear words in that track as well, or in that song, which I didn't get too focused on my end. But I think I actually wore the "Don't Fuck With Me" shirt for a while, so I got a few looks over the shoulder. Oh, you're still there.
Play, though.
Not sure if you've gone still on me right here. I think you might have locked up on me.
Really? I can hear you.
Oh no, I can definitely hear you. I'm just thinking you're looking at the same spot, and where it's pointed right now, it's staring directly at my beer, and I'm thinking you might want to steal it.
Well, maybe
stop this.
Maybe I do. I don't know what's going on.
Hang on. Where
Shall I
are
try
you?
and...
Oh no, there you go. You're back again.
Yeah?
It's all good.
Okay.
Gotta love a live show. Okay, you weren't trying to steal my beer. It's all good.
No, it's all right. Yes, I've got about a 20-hour flight to get there, so drink it quick.
Alrighty. And of course the old incubatus, as we like to call him over here before that as well. Coming up right now, we've got 4 more tracks to finish off the show, but we're going to play 2 right now. We've got System of a Down, which are definitely in the heavy metal vein. Came out sort of sprang out of nowhere on my end, and then they sort of just like because they were so out there. New metal sort of vibes, I suppose. I don't think they were definitely the new metal genre, or timing factor.
Yeah, I think again, I don't really know what is classed new metal, but it was around. They were in that period of time where there was other bands that were just on the radar. They were there, but really original. I think very unique. Some of the songs and the arrangements and the way that they sort of go about writing their songs is quite the decisions that have gone behind it. It's amazing, some of it. But I mean, I didn't know too much of the really old stuff. But again, I think sort of around 2003, 2004 time, maybe a bit after that. I heard a lot more of their stuff, and I think they did a couple of albums called Mesmerize and Hypnotize, I think.
The double,
They were like a double, almost like a double album, but they were released separately. Some really cool songs on it, and some of them, I mean, not all my cup of tea, to be honest. But that song Aerials was, I really liked it. It was just had such an atmospheric kind of element to it. But that really heavy riff in the middle of the verses, which was so cool. So yeah, that came out on Toxicity, which was released in 2001. So their first album was very, very raw, very, very fast, very bombastic and frenetic. But then when Toxicity came out, it was obviously their follow-up album, and everyone had the huge, what are they going to come up with next? And on top of the huge riffage and massive drumming and fast beats, the flavour of harmonies and the orchestral sort of sounds even came out, because they use more instruments on there than guitar, bass, drums on that album, and of course in Aerials. And like you said, that big riff, as huge as it is definitely, it's got the dynamic factor of like being something that you could hear in almost like a church or a huge cave, and having that. One of those songs you could sort of see them playing with, like an orchestra or some real kind of epic setting. Mm-hmm. It's just, I mean, they're very inventive, I think, and especially when there's, sometimes at a time when there was no guitar solos and things like that, really, in many of those songs around that era of time. But not that they had any either, really, or too many, but they just have a way of like really keeping the song moving, or introducing just these parts which you think, how have they even thought of that? And there's some some element that's just really great. So and pretty raw as well. Toxicity album, I think, has some songs that were really raw with the vocals as well. Just kind of, it's good stuff. And Serge, the singer, did his own solo project as well, where he got to experiment even further into his own vocal range and stuff, where he was
He was doing some massive stuff, man. I mean, because they're Armenian and they've got Armenian background, and the Armenian Turkish, like that sort of that Middle Eastern style, like singing style, is something off on a whole other charts on. And to bring that into, the Western culture sort of thing, they did a pretty damn good job for introducing their sound to a lot of young people back in the day, and they still do. Well, as influence, I don't think they're playing together anymore. There might have been, there's probably been some malarkey with money once again, I don't want to say too much with these bands. Yeah. Because I haven't heard System of a Down's name for a long time, actually, like playing on a live set or anything, but I don't know. There's plenty of cover bands out there that are still doing, their pretty top-notch jobs of covering them. So
tribute band.
We're gonna. Oh well, actually, we might play this song that I'm going to suggest right now before we play Aerials by System of a Down, because it's we're going into the new metal district of Limp Bizkit. Everybody, we wasn't going to completely diss them out. Like, look. I was a fan for a period of time. I can't say I'm a huge fan, but look, they had some fucking catchy riffs. They got a whole generation inspired, and we had metal people stop wearing tight jeans and wearing baggy pants, and
there was no avoiding them. I think back in that period of time,
you couldn't.
No avoiding them, and. When they did that Faith cover as well, I think that was the first thing I'd heard of them. And it was just so, I don't know, there was the novel value to it, but also the fact that it actually was really, it was kind of cool, in that really heavy way. And I think that just sort of pushed them right into a load of people's faces, because it's a song that everyone knows anyway from George Michael. So, they were like, let's turn it up to 11 and kind of, go really crazy with it. But that was the first time I heard a Faith cover. And then, but there was, they were, despite the viewpoint, they were big, and they were, you couldn't avoid them. For a few years, they were everywhere, and they had a few really big albums too.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking they might have had the sad factor of like someone like Green Day, who was struggling as to get up that ladder, and then they reached that, pinnacle. Then they had all this hate, and then you think the same thing with Limp Bizkit, like that. I think maybe Fred Durst pushed it a little bit. He might have driven the screw into the wound a little bit more than needed at the time with their popularity. But a lot of people started hating on them and everything, and then they started doing their thing and making a lot of money and getting, if you weren't drop tuning your guitars down because of hearing Korn in advance, you were doing it because you heard the Faith track, because you were wondering how these guys got that song to sound so freaking heavy. So and you mentioned that track. That's actually off the track I'm actually featuring isn't going to be Faith, but it's off that same album, $3 Bill Y'all, and the track being $3 Bill Y'all, the opening track. I was a big fan of Wes, original guitarist from Limp Bizkit.
Me too.
Even Fred Durst's words is that Wes can take any riff and make it sound fucking heavy, and I don't think he hasn't not proved that with every album that he's featured on for Limp Bizkit. He's a great guitarist himself. Have you heard any of his solo stuff?
I haven't. No, I haven't. But he was
bit trippy, bit different.
I can imagine. I probably should check it out, because he was, in that band anyway, quite the character with the, he had a very numerous amount of looks and that kind of thing. But beside all that, some of the his playing, some of the riffs in some of those songs were good, were really were inspiring. There was one of the songs, what was it? I think My Generation.
Yep.
There's this part in that song a little bit further along with this really great riff, really cool guitar riff in it. And I mean, I remember seeing that. That's like inspiring to me. I want to write something that's, got that kind of like vibe or intensity. It was cool. So I mean, and not everyone's cup of tea, but I think they were huge at that point in time. You can't not think of them when you go around that era of music. you know, Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit.
I mean, literally,
everywhere.
If we had to put a little mountain here and say, like, you know, nu metal at the top as a name, not maybe the best band at nu metal, but if someone who's known around the world for that genre, yeah, well, the old Limp Bizkit has to be there. I'm sorry to say, I think they have to be, because they were like a fucking, just a big fucking snowball effect on everybody who hadn't heard their sound around the world. Like you said, it reached the UK, at least Australia. It was born in the USA, but yeah, wow. Okay, let's listen to Limp Bizkit. We'll listen to Limp Bizkit with no, I said $3 Bill Y'all. That's the album. We're listening to the first track, Counterfeit. Pardon me, and then we're going to listen to System of a Down, Aerials. Pardon me. Okay, get it right, Struth. God. Yeah, less edits. It makes it harder for the show. What can I say? Alrighty, let's get into it. Sweet as, back. We just heard Aerials by System of a Down, and before that we heard Limp Bizkit with Counterfeit. Look, I'm going to have to say it. Look, I'm still going to love Counterfeit. I love jamming out to that track so much. They played it live and they cover it. They do it. That's the other factor with a lot of these bands. They might be able to pull it off in the studio and have that huge sound, but they're not going to be able to pull it off live, and they do a bad job. Limp Bizkit have had that much experience. I don't think they can say that they've done a bad show in a long time. So, and System of a Down, hopefully they come back one day to our the shores of UK or Australia. I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah, I don't. You know, did they stop making music? I don't actually know their current status, to be honest.
Gosh, hang on. Hey Siri, what's System of a Down up to these days?
Okay, I found this on the web for what?
Oh, thank you. She found it on the web for me, apparently.
Oh, that's good.
It still says there. Oh gosh, doesn't it say like a 2010 to present years active? Okay, even earlier than that, 94 till present. But we've got present as they haven't got a deceased date, unfortunately. Not unfortunately. That's good. That's
to
good.
Siri, they're still going. That's fine.
I'm happy as long as Siri's happy. Oh well, gosh, I wonder if you could get some of these. You use iPhone because we've got different accents for Siri over here. So yeah, I know a lot of the ladies in the UK and America love the Australian Siri male accent, but I'm happy to say that I'm working on my own little innovative Struth mate Siri, but yeah, we'll see how that works. It's not going to be very much. It might be only about 3 phrases, like yes, no, and maybe.
Well, that sounds cool. Yeah, I don't really use Siri at all, but when it comes on for the sat nav in the car, it's the Australian Navigator, so it's I wouldn't have it any other way.
So you feel like you're an Australian documentary?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it needs some. It needs to have some like proper good sayings though. Really, he's way too formal. You know, I think if he had a few, a good few phrases, then it would make the journey far more interesting. But
maybe I should aim a little bit lower than Siri and go for a Struth sat nav voice. That could be done. I could do it in the Yoda sort of style, you know, like turn.
Left you will turn. Yeah.
Left you will turn. God, I missed it, you fucking idiot. I missed the turn. Anyway, it's all good. It's all good. Okay, we're going to finish off the show. We've got a couple more tracks to finish off with for the Nu Metal special with the Joe and Struthy. We're going to head over and listen to Sinner by Drowning Pool. Drowning Pool are a huge influence on the heavy metal scene, and I think they sort of broke out and had a little bit of commercial success, but unfortunately the lead singer had the old heart die on him. But he was one of those people who wasn't a drinker, wasn't a drug taker, just one night had a really good gig and went to a party afterwards, and he woke up and he wasn't there anymore. I think Drowning Pool definitely kicked on for a while. I don't know if they had an extra singer on board, but I know they were a 3-piece for a small stint. But that was a good song. The track Sinner is title of their 2001 album, and then 2002 they released the actual single for Sinner. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with them. Not sure if you had much of a connection with them, but I know there's a lot of people screaming their song out on the radio over here while they're driving. It's definitely a pump up action sort of song. So
yeah, for me, and it was only that I heard of them again. It was another band that I kind of heard of, and would see their videos and that sort of thing on TV. But I didn't own any of their albums. Maybe that's bad. There's so much out there that I kind of did or didn't discover. So.
Oh look, there's heaps of people on the internet who know that fucking parrot singing "Dead Bodies" on the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. But they don't know who sang that song, and it's like that's a Drowning Pool song. Like that's it's like its own meme now, but there's people out there who don't even know where the track came from. So anyway, and your choice to finish off, Perfect Circle, A Perfect Circle. My gosh, a huge band when it first arrived on the scene. A lot of people were. I mean, when I first heard the track, I don't know if you were the same on the radio. I didn't know who the artist was. I thought it was the new Tool song. I'm going to say it out there, and I think that really came across because Billy Howardell from fucking A Perfect Circle was the guitar tech for Tool, and Maynard was the singer for for A Perfect Circle. So forgive me. I'm sorry, but
yeah, exactly. It's you can't get. You'd be forgiven for thinking that it was. But I mean, again, I think, when I think of the term new metal, I don't necessarily think of A Perfect Circle, but they were there around that time, about 2000, I think the first album came out. And it had that band and that album had just such an effect for me, because it was that mixture of kind of intriguing artwork and music that that first album was great, and I think all their albums are really good, but the first one in particular just had such a style about it, and the album artwork was really interesting, and that whole thing for me just personally sort of all fits together kind of quite nicely. And then I say Maynard singing and the musicians they had, but I think have changed over the years a little. But
I think they had a different person per album probably from the original.
One instrument or the other has been somewhat different, but it was just great. And again, I think I found them on one of those late night MTV2 alternative shows. But Judith was the first song that I heard. I think that was the first single anyway. But just something about it that is just, it's just a really good song. And also,
it really is.
One of the things that they did or do seem to make quite effortless is that the time signatures in the songs are all very varied. Even just between the same song, it changes several times sometimes, and they seem to do it in a way that is barely noticeable when you listen to it kind of very casually, but then when you sort of delve in, you're like, man, there's been some real thought has gone into putting these songs together, but yet it doesn't sound necessarily like you're listening to something that's completely jarring with like a bizarre time signature that you can't help but notice. So it's that element of it, that kind of intelligent level of songwriting was something that really interested me too. But great band.
And if I might say, there's a bit of slide guitar in this song.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
So
it's still there. I haven't forgotten. It's still there.
That's good. You'll be getting. I'm going to do one of those like future email things. It'll be like in 6 months' time. Remember the slide.
That's right. Yeah.
But no, true. Maynard wrote that song about. I think the lyrics are about his mum still being so happy and so accepting of God, even after she became literally paralyzed. she ended up in a wheelchair and stuff like this, and so that song for him is very powerful as well, because he's trying to. Maynard's not a very big fan of religion, as a lot of people know. He's very outspoken about it. So and the track's called Judith. So there's lots of tie-ins and everything. So so we're going to finish off. Like I said, we've got we've had a huge range of tracks. We've had Korn, we've had Deftones, Chevel, Seven Dust, Incubus, System of a Down, Chimera, Coal Chamber, Drowning Pool. We're about to hear right now, Papa Roach, Limp Bizkit, Mudvayne, and Static X on this special semi-new metal special. Look, we won't call it the new metal special. We'll call it the Joe and Struthy.
It kind of is fundamentally new metal with other bands of the same time. We could totally do another one though,
Yeah, we'll call it that. Exactly what you call it. Take a long time.
That's okay. Yeah,
but yes,
there you go.
For sure. I'd love another catch up with you. Right yeah. I'll write that down. Exactly.
We could totally do another one in bracket. We could be here, mate. We could just do this forever. This show, we could be like the two guys from the Muppets, that sit over the balcony. Do you remember Linkin Park? We haven't played Linkin Park, so we have to. We could be
there you go. And suggestions from Struthlings and Minus Cube fans out there, please let us know some tracks you'd like us to feature and have a little chat skit out.
Yeah.
Look, I can include some more of these crappy song facts if you want me to in the future. I just have to read them about 10 minutes before we start chatting. I have to retain that information. So, but no, it's been wonderful. And a bit of transform back into Struth before we head off. Wide head.
There we go.
Struth, wrap them around, the balls around, and thank you very much, Joe. You absolute legend. I can't thank you enough. We're going to hear. We've got Drowning Pool Sinner. Did I say we're finishing off with? Yes, and we've got A Perfect Circle with Judith, and you're an absolute legend, buddy. And all the best of the future to Minus Cube. We'll hear from you in the future, mate. You'll be on the DJ Struth, mate, show like that in a second. Don't worry. And all the best to you and yours. And take it easy, mate. We'll catch up with you soon. Let's do it. You're right.